My opinion is going to get crucified. You may even suggest, Aku, you should have kept this in the archives. The whole Diddy situation, I was keeping up with the trial and everything because one of my friends, like very early on, kept making jokes about it. And I didn't like the whole baby oil and stuff. I didn't get it. I was like, what is this? Like, what is this? So eventually, right, when the verdict happened, which was like last week or so, a few weeks ago, at least when I'm recording this, I see everyone is outraged. The saddest day in history. The legal system failed, right? Money can buy you anything. Money can make you free and all that. And maybe I'm just stupid or something because I don't know. I actually paid attention to the case rather than just, see headlines or go with the popular perspective based on, what the public is feeling. All this really proved this whole trial was that Diddy is a domestic abuser. And we've all seen that video, right? It also proved that he used his power maliciously. It proved he has a history of aggressive and violent behavior, Diddy, right? Glad we know that. However, he was not on trial for any of those things. The prosecutors, it felt like they were more focused on trying to establish Diddy's character rather than deal with what he's being charged with. Yes, you've proven that Diddy has a history of aggressive behavior and violent patterns. We can all agree on this. I like to think so. I don't think Diddy should just walk away from this free. I'm not free Diddy, but this guy isn't being charged with most of the stuff that people were bringing up. I think they tried to make the jury feel like, oh, because he's so historically violent and aggressive, he's automatically guilty, even though no other evidence is being provided of the charges against him. He's historically violent, boom, automatically guilty. No evidence needed, y'all. That's not how the legal system works. Maybe if we were all like working off of emotions, but so when people say the legal system failed, no, it worked exactly how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be in jury or have have a prejudice just because of someone's character. You need to base it off of the evidence of a case. I use the word emotion, right? Look, I understand we have an emotional attachment to what was revealed about this guy, Diddy, right? A woman beater and a freaky psycho. How many times now? It's going to be the third time I say this. But this isn't what he was on trial for. The prosecutors tried their best to do this approach and it failed. And, just looking at everything now, here's what I've learned from this whole situation. Diddy has a really bad temper. He had a lot of open relationships, which we find out via testimonies and interviews outside of the case by people involved in these freak-offs. Cassie was setting up and paying for all these freak-offs. And we even saw text messages of Cassie encouraging all of these freak-offs. Grown woman, by the way. Regardless, I also learned that these quote prostitutes were seemingly people who willingly showed up and were paid and not harmed in any way. At least from the interviews and the people brought up in trial or brought into the trial, that's what the conclusion came out to be. All these quote prostitutes showed up to court, testified, maybe even just gave a few whatever, right? And said Cassie called them numerous times. They had a freak off. They enjoyed themselves. They got paid. And then they went home with some money for fulfilling a fantasy by some rich, open relationship couple, and or some guy who likes, some cuckolding, you know what I'm saying? It might baffle some of you to see people online going like, Cassie's just as guilty, right? Well, she did call those, quote, prostitutes. She helped transport them. She did pay for them to do things and repeated this action numerous times. And even with the evidence provided, she was enthusiastic about it towards Diddy. So technically wise, I can see why people say she is just as guilty, but people don't care about that because they saw a video of her getting attacked and dragged by Diddy. So, people just don't care about that. So once they see footage like that and the prosecutors continue to expose violent behavioral patterns, they think A must equal B. I'd say that relationship between Diddy and Cassie was abusive and manipulative, but at the same time, based on the evidence provided, the testimonies, and her actual proven behavior, she is not the greatest character either. You can say I'm victim shaming because I'm basing my opinion off of evidence and testimonies. If I strictly attach my emotions to this and say, forget evidence, and the step-by-step process of the legal system. I feel XYZ because I'm caught up on something I saw in the trial. Then what kind of legal system do y'all want in America? When you're a lawyer or you're in, the jury, whatever, you're told not to work off your emotions and prejudice of character. Y'all mad about that? The justice system failed? Y'all acting like this guy was on trial for 20 other things. On top of Diddy doing some time, if they give it to him, which I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him time served based on the verdict, right? But on top of whatever outcome that may be, I feel like Diddy needs to be in some addiction therapy or counseling or something. This guy is clearly addicted to freak offs. He has anger issues. Listen, this whole situation should be the ultimate humbling experience for him. Hey, you rich, but you're not omnipotent. You can't just be going out there, blowing up cars, beating women, and doing all sorts of crazy and violent things to other human beings. You can't just do that. This guy is psychotic. But again, he wasn't on trial for any of that stuff. They just decided to bring it up because they want to sway people based off of my feelings. Sobbing emoji, sobbing emoji. Sorry, the legal system does not work that way. Sometimes the jury may be biased because of that. Sometimes judges and lawyers may be biased because of that. But on this level and how things were unfolding in the trial, it's just like, hey, it's just not going to work that way. I could tell based on like comments I'll read online. Some people didn't even follow the trial. Like they just saw like a highlight of it, or they heard something about Diddy's character that he wasn't being charged with in trial, and then immediately made their decision. I think what people are failing to separate, honestly, that just because somebody's character, somebody has a bad character and they feel like this person's character is so bad. Like, I don't care what happens to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know what? I don't care. This guy is such a bad person. I don't care what happens to him. Automatically, because I don't care. Throw him under the jail. Like, I feel you. I get it. But I don't know. I'm trying to, we just got a legal system here that works a certain way. Anyway, again, they made their own decisions. The sad part is they weren't being charged for those decisions. I said this like 10 times in this video, so I'm gonna just wrap this up at this point. This is how I perceived it based on me following, reading, and staying up to date with the case from start to finish, looking at the details. He needs to be humbled, but this felt more like humiliation more than anything. I don't even feel bad for him. Literally, I don't feel bad for him at all. It's just the reaction to the verdict from people is just, man, whatever, bro. This episode is found on Spotify and YouTube. I'm out.